beautiful people, and welcome back to another very special Halloween episode of the Happiest Cast on Earth, the show where we review anything and everything that is somehow connected or released by the Walt Disney Corporation. I'm your host, as always, Ryan Johnson, and sadly, this week I was unable to get a guest for this episode. We actually had a guest, but sadly, due to some issues that, well, it was transportation issues. That's the right word. Due to transportation issues, he was unable to make it into the studio today. So I'm all by myself. But hey, since it's the Halloween show, we can just assume there's an invisible man in the room or something like that. But yeah, welcome back to the show. I'm all by my lonesome here today. But that doesn't mean that we can't still have a fun show, because today we are going to be looking at something very special. This is a very special episode here today because last week, we didn't really get something that was super Halloween connected. We got the Amy Adams movie where she turned into a dog. Wikipedia calls it a horror comedy. There's really not that much horror in it. This show, on the other hand, horror is literally in the name of the show, and it gets very horrific at times. That being American Horror Story, which, in case you didn't know, is in fact a Disney television series. Now, the interesting about this episode in particular is that it came from season 6, which has the subtitled Roanoke. The interesting thing about American Horror Story in general is that this is the first time in the history of this show where we have gotten a television series that started airing before it was bought out by Disney, which is, for those of you who don't know, the big exception with the ABC and television shows in general, where we're not going to be talking about like ABC shows that like started airing before Disney bought them, unless they continued making episodes after the acquisition. Like, the only real example I can think of with ABC in particular is General Hospital, because that show started in the 60s and is still going on to this day. But with Fox, there are tons of examples, most notably the animated shows like The Simpsons and Family Guy. But we also have several FX shows, including It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and today's topic, American Horror Story. And season 6 aired in, I believe, 2016. So yeah, this was 3 short years before this show would be acquired by Disney. So this is technically Disney, but not Disney at the same time, which is very fun. So, a little bit of background. American Horror Story is actually a horror anthology series created by the creator of Glee, which sounds really stupid at first, but then you start to realize, oh, this show's actually really good. Like the horror here is actually very well done. It for television, for what a cable television is able to get away with, it's really good. I mean, I'm pretty sure FX has some freedom that they're able to do compared to like some of the other like cable channels, but yeah, especially compared to like what other networks have to deal with, it's a pretty crazy what FX can get away with. But anywho, I've not seen that much American Horror Story. I've seen some of the first few episodes. I've seen up to like episode 4 of season 1, and that was about it. Which is why I was very intrigued when this showed up on the Wheel of Names, and it specifically requested American Horror Story season 6, and I was intrigued, especially because it's an anthology series, so I'm not gonna be confused watching the first episode of season 6. Now, I initially wanted to like talk about a randomly selected episode from season 6, but season 6 is the only episode that's like where the episodes are like numbered, like chapter, like episode 1 is titled chapter 1. So because it's technically like a big 10-parter, I didn't want to like jump in the middle of it. So I feel like for the sake of this analysis and for the sake of my sanity, it's best to just start at episode 1. But yeah, that's pretty much what's the deal with American Horror Story. And the last thing I want to mention before we like take our next break is that it's kind of crazy just how surprisingly big both the American Horror Story franchises and the filmography of Ryan Murphy. Because you just think about it, like American Horror Story has 3 spin-offs. 3. Like seriously, like imagine like all right, there's probably the one you're all familiar with, American Horror Stories, because with American Horror Story, like each individual season, like every season tells one story, so it's like a new spin on the anthology series format, where like instead of every episode is its own story, every season is its own story, and this was really the first show to do that. Well, American Horror Stories is just like a traditional anthology series where each episode is its own story. So, okay, kind of strips the original show of what made it unique. But then it also has like 2 other spin-offs. American Crime Story and American Sports Story, which aren't horror related in the slightest, but they're the exact same show, exact same thing, but with crime stories and sports stories in particular. And I think that American Sports Story is like biographical even, which is crazy to me. And speaking of biographical, let's quickly talk about the filmography of Ryan Murphy, because I kid you not, I counted last night, Ryan Murphy has created 20 television shows. Because here's the thing, like before I really dove into this, I only really knew of like 3 shows that I knew Ryan Murphy was attached to. That was Glee, this show, American Horror Story, and the Monster series for Netflix. Because speaking of which, this is actually perfect timing, because that the new season all about Ed Gein just dropped on Netflix. But the funny thing is, here, let me pull up the Wikipedia list. Let me pull up Ryan Murphy's filmography on Wikipedia just to show you how many friggin' TV shows that he has just as a creator credit. The shows include Popular, Nip Tuck, Glee, American Horror Story, The New Normal, Scream Queens, Feud, 911, Pose, The Politician, 911 Lone Star, Hollywood, Ratched, American Horror Stories, Monster, The Watcher, Gross Stick Query, I don't know how you pronounce that, Dr. Odyssey, Mid-Century Modern. No, wait, he didn't direct that. He did not create that. Never mind. Dr. Odyssey, All's Fair, and 911 Nashville. That's nearly 20 TV shows. And the crazy thing is, with the exception of Popular and Nip Tuck, all of those shows came out in the last 15 years. Does this man sleep? Because I noticed that like he doesn't like write and direct a lot of these shows for the most part. So like does he just like write a bunch of pilots, credit himself as the creator, and then just moves on to something else? Because it looks like that. The show he had the most amount of writing credits on, weirdly enough, is Glee. So So wait, let's look at like the movies he directed, because he's directed 3 movies. He directed Running with Scissors, Eat, Pray, Love, and in the middle of all these shows that he was creating in 2020, he directed The Prom, the Netflix musical film where not Gordon Ramsay, where James Corden plays a gay man and he's really cringy. Yet that movie. Oy. Yeah, that if you guys haven't seen The Prom, don't. It's a really bad movie. But anyway, that's enough talk about Ryan Murphy and the people making this show. Let's just go ahead and talk about the show after this quick little break.
Many college students even use their smartphones in class. Well, it's annoying. Not only is it annoying, it is also very inconsiderate. Your professors expect you to pay attention in class and to take advantage of your education. You're paying a lot of money to attend college, and by using phones in class, you are disturbing other students and distracting yourself from your studies. So just for the duration of classes, turn it off. It will reduce distractions and increase your chances of maintaining good grades.
Winter means more chances to be stranded in a snowbank. The DMV wants you to be sure to have an emergency kit in your vehicle. To start, be sure to have a spare tire with you and tools needed to change it out. Here are a few items to help you survive. Flares, a blanket, boots, radio, emergency oil, washer fluid, coolant, and a flashlight. WVCU wants you to be ready for whatever this season brings your way.
Alrighty, welcome back to the show. So, let's go ahead and dive deep into American Horror Story Roanoke, Episode 1, Chapter 1. So, this episode, and I assume the entire season, because keep in mind, the only episode of this season in particular of American Horror Story that I have seen is this episode that we are talking about, and I did not do any additional research because I want to judge this episode of television on its own merits and not as an entire season, like we did back in the dark ages of television. So apparently this is a mockumentary. Yeah, the framing device of this episode, and I assume the rest of the season, is a mockumentary, which is interesting. Now, I always think that it's a really cool idea whenever media decides to like mix itself, like, we got a mockumentary over here, we got something that's part like drama, part like fake documentary and stuff like that. That's really, really cool. My main problem with this episode is that it doesn't commit to the bit. It does not go all the way with it. This is very much a standard episode of television that has like documentary elements shoehorned in. Like it starts off really well with the whole based on a true story text, which I didn't do additional research to see if this was actually based on a true story, because I frankly just didn't feel like it. And I also think that would have been cheating. There you go. But like, and we get like the interview set up with the husband and wife who live in the city, and they eventually decide to leave the city because it was too dangerous. So they move out and to the south. They move to the south in this nice old house that they win in a bidding auction against these local Southerners. Now, but after that, the documentary aspects are just so shoehorned into the point where it's almost forgotten about, and I'm just kind of sitting there because I love documentaries. I love watching documentaries. Like 9 times out of 10, I learn more from a documentary than I do from somebody just lecturing me about it. That's why I love down to like something like simple like Crash Course or video essay to a big budget feature length documentary. I will learn more from that than a classroom lecture any day of the week. So, I know the structure of a true crime documentary specifically, and just documentaries as a whole. It doesn't really follow the structure, because if it wants, because like it can't decide if it wants to go all the way with being a mockumentary or not. Because like I feel like with this episode in particular, it would be so much better if it either went all the way with the documentary aspects, or just removes them entirely and just does like a normal episode of TV. If it's just like a normal American Horror Story episode, like, okay, so, but you know, it is neat that they attempted it to be, but I genuinely don't think that any horror mockumentary is ever gonna top Behind the Mask, so why even bother at this point? But hey, what's Ryan Murphy's most popular works if not derivative of stuff that came before it? So yeah, anyways, sorry, I was watching the clock. So yeah, this follows this couple as they move to the south after getting attacked in the city. Just once, by the way, just once. So, and they're fine. I don't really care about them. Maybe I'd care about them more if I see other episodes, but you know, they're fine. And initially, and they start to see weird supernatural-ish things around the house. But initially, they just assume that it's the locals messing with them because they wanted the house, and because the husband and wife are an interracial couple, they think that all these attacks are racially motivated, which, based on where they are, is fairly justified. And we never really get a solid explanation on what's going to happen in this episode. So for those of you who have seen the entire season, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it could have gone either way. Like, one is that, yes, it was completely racially motivated. Completely. Or two, they were like trying to get this house away from this new couple because they know exactly what goes on in that house and what happens in it and what the house has, and they were trying to get them away from them to save them. Because we do see these people later on, and they're carrying torches. Now, and again, this could really be taken either way. The way the episode shows it is that, they're being racist and they're going to burn down the house where the black man's at. But, you know, we never really give a straightforward answer because it's only the first episode. So it could be they're trying to, like, get the evil out, or maybe they're evil. Like, I don't know. It's left open-ended by the end of the episode. So, which is how you get engagement, you know? And before we move on to like our next break, I will admit that I do have one more pet peeve that I forgot to mention about the documentary element, and that is they only managed to get 3 interviews. You make this whole documentary, this whole true crime documentary, and you only get 3 interviews. Just 3. Yeah, it's just one episode, but what documentary only gets 3 interviews? Just 3. Because we get the husband, the wife, and the sister of the husband. Are you serious? That's not, I'm sorry, but like that is genuinely not a good documentary. Like, I challenge you, audience. Name me a good documentary that has like the amount of interviews that you can count on one hand. I dare you? But yeah, that's interesting. I also think that it's kind of ridiculous that like all of the people that were involved in these horrific events wanted to like dramatically reenact them and not just get actors, because like the actors in the interview segments are also the actors doing these like actual scenes. I don't know. I just think they should have. I just think that they should have hired separate actors. Like they got the people in the interviews are like the real people, and the people in the reenactments are like, oh, like actors reenacting it, like in universe. Or maybe I'm just completely wrong. Maybe like the interview segments are like this weird like purgatory thing or whatever like that. Or like I don't know. I haven't watched the rest of the season, so I genuinely do not know. Again, I was kind of hoping that my guest would have watched the rest of the season, so he can kind of help me out on this one. But yeah, I don't know. It just left me really confused that like they would reenact these traumatic moments in their lives, like the sister reenacting the moment where she where she broke up with her husband, or where she got addicted to painkillers, or where she saw a man shoot himself in front of her. Like the stuff that the sister went through especially was like, wait, unless this was like a way for them to do the ultimate therapy in the world, what sane person would agree to do this? Like, seriously. God. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take another quick break. But when we return, we will discuss the rest of this episode and my predictions on what's going to happen next.
Enjoying the variety of music that WVCU has to offer? Well, do we have something in store for you? You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram now. There you can find polls, chat with some of the DJs, and find out about showtimes and other WVCU events coming up, including contests. Just look up WVCU Radio and connect with us today. WVCU, on air and online, connecting with you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the show, everybody. So, let's go ahead and talk about the teeth. So, like, the husband has to leave for work all the time, like multiple days away, which is the second week in a row where we've talked about something Halloween related, and a husband who constantly has to go out of town for work because, last week we talked about the Amy Adams dog movie that I can't say on air, where famously the husband has to do that all the time. Only this time there's no 2-year-old to look after. So that's pretty much that. But like while the husband's away, the wife walks outside and it's just raining human teeth, and that just keeps happening throughout the course of the episode, where like supernatural stuff happens while the wife is alone and her husband is gone, and then the husband gets back and like he doesn't really believe her because all this weird crap is happening, which if I came home and suddenly like my wife is telling me that somebody grabbed her from when she was inside the hot tub, yet there were no footprints, and it was like raining human teeth, yeah, I'd be a little skeptical. Not that I say like I don't believe you like at all, because when somebody's in like a paranoid state, the last thing that person needs to hear is that they're being paranoid. But I would definitely be thinking to myself, be like, dude, are you alright? But yeah, because of all this, her husband figures out that, like, you need somebody here with you when I'm away, my sister's coming here to stay with you. The sister and the wife, they don't really get along. They don't really get along that much. But they're here anyways. They're here anyways. So, yeah, and also, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the sister is an addict. She's clean now. She's clean. So don't worry. She is clean. She's sober, but she can be a little tempted even if a woman drinks in her own house. She can get tempted, which is really, really bad for your relapse. Oh, my man. Oh. Hope you all enjoy the sound of me flipping through my notes. Yeah, this is the cutting edge audio quality that you should expect at WVCU. I'm getting a grade for this. So, anyways, even when the sister shows up, like, dear God, the creepy stuff just keeps on happening. Like, the scene that got me was when the wife was just walking around and there was just a random woman in her house, like, dude. I had to back all the way from the mic for that one. It was bad. Oh man, it was insane to watch. Just I wish I could show you guys my reaction to that, because like that got me. That was insane. Effective horror. I have to admit this. If there's one thing that I have to get this show credit for, is that, dang it, it's effective horror. It knows how to make you unsettled. It is very horrific, gory, and it's very horrific. Also, the part where we start to get to know the sister a little bit more was around this time too. And this was also around the time where Disney Plus decided not to work. Because I watched this thing on Disney Plus because it's so freaking funny to watch Hulu stuff on Disney Plus. But yeah, I did the same thing with the Amy Adams dog movie last week. And for whatever reason, Disney Plus just stopped working halfway through the episode. And like it stopped working to the point where like days would go by and I returned to it. And like the audio just wasn't working. And I checked my computer, it wasn't muted. I didn't have headphones in that I forgot about. And I logged on to other sites. The audio was working just fine. It was Disney Plus in particular that was like, no, you're not going to finish this episode on our platform. Okay, so I had to go all the way to Hulu, fast forwarded to the bit where the audio stopped working, and just continued watching the episode on Hulu. Which, okay. Interesting. So yeah, it took me multiple days to watch a 40-minute episode of television because of a technical error. When I can usually just watch an episode in one sitting, like a normal person, no, I had to space it out in the halfway point because the freaking audio wasn't working. Okay, thanks a lot for that. That was very, very kind of you. I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, regardless, it did have some very effective horror towards the end, where you see the fact that the locals are like raiding their house, and they hide in the basement, and like they see this weird video of like a guy in a pig mask, which I forgot to mention earlier. the husband found a dead pig in their shed, but didn't tell the wife about it. So yeah, there's multiple pigs. It's like Black Mirror. There's like tons of pigs here. Hopefully it's not like Black Mirror. But anyways, it's just... And eventually when the husband comes back and straight up does not believe her, she leaves, hits a woman with her car, and then suddenly finds this weird Wicker Man scene, where there's like these Blair Witch carvings like in the trees, and there's like a bunch of people with torches, and the episode just ends right there with a man with like his head open, and you can see his brain, and like it's disturbing. It's like a very effective first episode of a horror season. I will tell you that. So I'm very intrigued with like the horror that this showcases, but notice that throughout the entirety of the second half of this analysis, I did not mention the documentary aspect once. That is the big thing that ruins this episode for me. It's a very effective horror. It is a great horror experience, especially for October. But the stupid true crime documentary framing device that doesn't even fully commit to it being a documentary, to being a mockumentary of any sort, it ruins the episode. It is obnoxious in the worst way possible, and I just hate it. I hate the fact that they don't go all the way with it, and the episode would be so much better without it. Maybe future episodes ditch it altogether. I'm pretty sure they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Message me about it. But in this episode in particular, it ruins it. So, overall, I mean, this episode, yeah, it is really a mixed bag, because there are plenty of great aspects about it, but there's also just as many horrible aspects about it. So, like, on a scale, I guess, like, on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being a giant Pooh Bear and 5 being a grand shiny castle, I would probably give this like a 3, because it's really, because I feel like that's the perfect rating to get this, because there really are the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But, you know, those are just my opinions on this one episode of this 12-season series with 3 spin-offs. So what do you guys think of American Horror Story Roanoke Chapter 1? Please let me know, and please let me know in the comments if you are listening to this on Spotify or watching this on YouTube. And also, please be sure to, if you're watching this later when it's uploaded to all those servers, to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And please be sure you join us next week on the Happiest Cast on Earth, where we will actually not be live on the radio, because that is Concord University's fall break. But I still want to keep making an episode. I still want to make an episode or 2. And so we're still going to make an episode, and that will be Season 2, Episode 15 of the freeform horror fantasy series Siren, titled Sacrifice. So, but until then, I will see you later. Bye.
When you wear the shirt, make no difference who you fucking are. In the garden, where you